Welcome to your Aligned as Fuck Life podcast, hosted by your girl, Shalvika. I am a life transformation coach, a wife, a cat mom, pure generator, Enneagram 3, Pisces sign, and helping you build an aligned as fuck life is my jam. Out in this world, we believe that there are no set rules for building a life, career, and business. That we are all unique and we should be able to embrace our uniqueness in everything we do while shedding all the rules or bullshit rules one at a time. We will talk all things mindset, manifestation, healing, energetics, rituals, success, and so much more. I believe that I can have it all, and you can too. Ready for an episode that will take you one step closer to your aligned as fuck life? Let's get started. Hi, and welcome to another episode of your Aligned as Fuck Life with Shalvika, and I am so excited. I mean, look at our guest today. Welcome, Ashley. I am so happy to have you here. I'm so excited and so energized by your energy and your quirkiness. And welcome.
Oh my God. Shalvika, thank you so much for having me. I was so attracted to your light and your energy, and I was like, I wonder what would happen if we just played together.
I know, and we're going to have so much fun. So before I forget, what we are going to talk about today is so fucking important, so fucking juicy. I think it's something that it's close to both of our hearts, and we're going to talk about discerning between your intuition and your ego or your fear. And before we dive into that, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? Maybe give us a snippet of what got you here.
Oh, thank you. I am so excited to be here, and especially this topic. It's such a big deal, especially because of the state of our world. And a lot of us who at least come to play in our spheres are, cycle breakers and change makers, and they're visionaries and creatives, and they're people who are like, I can see a better way, and I have to heal certain things or get past certain blocks in order to be able to do this. So for me, this whole journey started because I walked through a lot of trauma, and I realized that there was a lot of ways that I could support people if they were open to learning from me. And then I went on and got, certified in it's so early for me, neuro-linguistic programming and clinical hypnotherapy and emotional freedom techniques and becoming trauma informed and all of that stuff. And so now today, my favorite thing is to walk with people through their darkest points in life, their shadows, their ego, their wounds, their pain, and help them heal so that they can move forward and, really truly follow their heart. Because in my world, I believe that your heart is the bridge to your soul. And when everyone is living in love and from their heart, this is how we make the world a better, brighter place to be.
That just makes me so full, if that makes sense. But thank you so much for sharing that. And I think we as a civilization have kind of reached that breaking point, where we are just we are no longer just going to be focused on productivity and efficiency and corporate jobs and making more and more money, but we are going to, connect and find who we are at a much, much, much deeper level. And I think in some ways, even though the last few years were tough for a lot of us, I think that kind of just, played a role in pushing us towards that internal connection.
Oh my God. I mean, a lot of people have a lot of opinions about the pandemic, and it was truly traumatic. But so many people realize, am I living someone else's dream? Why am I doing this? What am I putting up with in my relationship right now that I what? And so it was this catalyst that woke people up. That's what do I want? If life is so short and so finite and so fragile, how am I going to live?
Yeah. And I think kind of coming back to what we're going to talk about today, I think we are just, and that's something that I keep talking about. So I'm sure, like, whoever's listening, if they've listened to my other episodes, I'm sure they're like already tired of it. But we are born with like a fucking checklist. And that just makes me so insanely mad, right? Like, this is what we're supposed to. There's no scope for us to connect with ourselves. There's no scope to ask, what is your body telling you? What does your gut say? What does your intuition say? So we just don't grow up trusting those parts of who we are.
And like, to take it even deeper,
Yeah.
the thought of you grow up in a society where you are told this is what success looks like, this is what fulfillment and happiness looks like. It's outside of you. And once you strive and reach those things, then you'll be happy, then you'll be in love, then you'll feel fulfilled. And it's like, how many times have we seen people just totally break and crumble? And it's like, that's not true for me.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Like, no one actually, like, even if we look at school systems, the way our colleges work, like, we don't actually sit and ask people and kids, like, what is it that you value? Like, what's important to you as a human being, right? And yeah, oh my God, I'm so excited. Okay, so I think this is a conversation that I've had multiple times with a lot of clients, especially, I also use human design. So people who have sacral authority, it's like, trust your gut, trust your intuition. And a lot of times the question that comes up is, what is that? And how do you know it's my intuition and not, something that I've heard from external? So how do you deal with that? How do you process that?
Oh my God. Oh, I love that you do that. That's so good. And it's so exciting that people have access to you so that they can learn through you, because that is a gift that they will have for the rest of their life. And like, that is a life-changing skill to have.
Yeah.
So the process for me, because my purpose on the planet is to help people heal and listen to and follow their hearts. Well, because I believe that the heart is connected to your soul and your intuition, your heart actually sounds like love. It's exciting. It's expansive. It's like, you're worthy. You can do this. Of course. It's like a whisper, where your ego comes in and it's fear-based. It's, I'm going to keep you safe. It's, I don't think you should do this. You're not going to make enough money. It's too big of a job to apply for. You probably shouldn't ask for the divorce because you're going to be alone forever. Who are you to? What if you can't? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And so the process for me is, because your ego is your thought, it's a machine running the show.
Yeah.
How can you actually become the observer of what the thoughts are telling you, so you can ask yourself, is this aligned and is this love, or is this my ego and is this fear? How has that process been for you?
Yeah, I think it's the same. Like, I think it all starts with awareness, right? Like, I keep talking about what Michael Singer talks as your inner roommate, right? And it's like, there is someone else living in your mind that's talking to you, like you said, all of these things, right? You're not good enough. Will you make money? How are you gonna survive without your spouse? And all of those things, right? But I think for that, one of the most important things is to actually make space to slow down. And I think, again, going back to pandemic, because that's what it gave people. I think it just gave people space, and people had no idea what the fuck to do with that space. And then they were like, oh my God, all of these thoughts are coming up. I actually have time to sit down and think and listen to what I actually think and believe. But I think that's super important, to learn to create that space for yourself. Like, and I don't mean physical space, but like some practices, certain things, like be it meditation, be it breath work, be it journaling, whatever that looks like for you. I think that's so fucking important, to kind of just bring that to the forefront. That this is what my ego is saying.
Oh, that. And I think, we are brought up in a world where it's like, hustle, 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 climb the ladder, do all the things, like how busyness is a badge of honor. And it's like, actually, it's really pulling you away from yourself. How would you actually live if you weren't busy? What would that do for your nervous system? How would you live your life, And And it takes courage to create spaciousness in a world that does not praise it or reward it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a conversation that I keep having with so many people, that it just feels like, because I want to build a business that's kind of smashing the paradigms that exist right now. It feels like I'm constantly fighting, right? Like this because no one gets it. Like, and I think that's what kind of deters, is that what deters people? Like, it discourages people to actually go ahead and find their thing and like bring that spaciousness and slowness into their life. But I think it is so important. And especially now, right? Like, when we look around us and we see the kind of health that people have, like, even though like medically we are insanely advanced, I mean, we are not healthy. Like, we are not, like, we are stressed and we are diabetic and we have hypertension and we have all of those things. And I feel that's like a direct result of being so fucking busy. And for what? Like, no one has no idea. Like, no one has any idea.
Right. If we keep striving and we get more money, then we'll feel safe. Then we'll feel whole. Once we have the title or the position, then we'll feel like we've made something of ourselves. And in a world where, capitalistic conditioning is like, you keep going, you keep getting all the things, more, and then you are unhealthy. I mean, then you give huge industries a ton of money. And if you fall off the face of the earth earlier than you're meant to, that's great for the economy. And it's such a bummer. And it's why, your work is so important in the world. Because without spaciousness, without knowing who you are, without knowing what you want, you're going to fall into or continue to walk a system that is meant to crush you.
Yeah. And no one has any idea why. I mean, it's heartbreaking. Okay, so coming back to, discerning between your intuition and your ego, what is your, say the top steps for someone who's never done this? Like, I am absolutely new at this. How do I kind of get on this path? Because I really want to know.
Oh my God, I love that. Thank you. My process stems from neurolinguistic programming, which is all around your subconscious mind, and it ties in your body. So I believe in this branch of NLP that you have a thought come in, and then that thought creates a feeling or an emotion in your body, and then from that, you have a behavior or an action that you do or don't take, and then there's the result you do or don't have. And so the process for me is can you create spaciousness, if even 2 minutes, 5 minutes, to feel into your body? Like, what is your body telling you? Are you nervous? Are you contracted? Or are you expanded? Do you feel anxious or heartbroken or whatever that is? And when you come back to that and it's like, oh, I'm really feeling this, what's the thought that I was having? And when you look at the thoughts, are the thoughts loving and expansive and from your worth and your wholeness and in possibility and curiosity? Or is it in your lack, your unworthiness, your conditioning? Because the low level, heavy, dense thoughts create those feelings in your body. And so if you can go back up to the thought and what's the mental chatter, you can ask yourself, is this true? Is this loving? Is this compassionate? Or is this my ego, which is fear-based? I can't do this. I'm not smart enough. Nothing's ever going to work out for me. So that's the process I teach people, because if you're not listening to your body, you can't just go straight to your brain and override the thoughts. Like, you have to feel it, acknowledge it, see it, and then observe what's happening in your brain.
Yeah. But then what if, and I know you said that you're someone who's yourself processed a lot of trauma, and when you are, like, I know I've had some depressive episodes, and I've been I have struggled, right? And when you are in the clutches of a trauma-based response, or depression or an anxiety attack, for example, at that time it's very difficult to kind of just discern what is what, right? You just don't know what's happening. and you probably don't even want to do it. Like, you probably don't even want to take that 2 minutes, right? So how did you, like, how would you recommend someone to, what would be the basic thing to be done in that situation?
Oh, that's such a good question, Shalvika. So I think part of the thing is we don't have to attach a narrative to anything. We make depression mean something. We make anxiety mean something. But especially anxiety is a neural pathway in your brain that's built out of safety, right? So if we don't make it mean something and we feel the feelings without attaching a story or a narrative or judgment or shame or guilt, it lessens the tension and that density in the emotions that you're feeling, because it's like, I'm not going to make this mean anything. I'm just going to feel it for what it is.
Right.
But can you allow yourself to do that? If you can't, I would invite you to consider working with a counselor, a therapist, or a coach to help you walk that.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, I feel that's at the basis of so many things, is people not really feeling their feelings, right? And I mean, a lot of times people don't even know what they feel. Like, it's always like, I'm angry, but it's not anger, right? There's so much happening below the surface, and people just don't want to. Again, we've been raised in a society where, oh, be positive, wake up, positivity, bitches, and it's just, I mean, that does not, that narrative is so fucking toxic, right? That we don't end up learning how to feel our feelings. And so, okay, what's your best way to tell someone, like, how to feel their feelings? Like
Yeah, you
I've
got to
never
create
really let myself
spaciousness.
go there. What would you recommend? Yeah.
Yeah. First, I invite you to just be really curious. If you're in a state of curiosity, even just like a little bit, like a tinge of curiosity, it's like, oh, I'm feeling this. What is this? Where am I feeling this in my body? If I could attach like a color or a shape, or if I just like really felt into it, what is that? And even just that curiosity is like a thread that can help you unweave a tapestry of what's happening in your brain.
Yeah.
But you have to actually be like, oh, ooh, like, okay, as an example, when I, in my past relationship, I found out that I had been cheated on for almost a year. And my first instinct was I wanted to drink as much scotch as possible to tamper down the bullshit that I was feeling. It was so raw and so painful. And then instead of that, I sat back and I'm like, my heart is breaking. I've never experienced betrayal in this way. Why does this hurt so badly? And then as I got deeper in it, and I am like, it's my heart, it's my gut, now I don't feel like I can trust people.
Yeah.
It was just sitting with it and asking myself, why does this hurt so bad? And then allowing myself to see, what are the thoughts coming up? Where is this stemming from? Even just that was really healing for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think,
But you have to sit with it.
yeah, and not make it right or wrong. I think that's also like super important. Like, because, and I have felt that, right? Like, whenever you have negative emotions, right? Like you said, that I've never been betrayed. I'm never going to be able to trust again, right? And we are just so conditioned to quieten those parts of ourselves. Like, be like, it's okay. Shh, shh, right? And we are so used to judging those parts of us, right? Like, oh my God, I'm such a horrible person for thinking that, or I am such a miserable fucking person for thinking that, for believing that, and I'm in such a sorry state, or whatever that looks like, right? Like, there's so much judgment that comes around that, and I think that is so fucking important to kind of just, bring neutrality to it. Like, okay, this is what I'm feeling, and that's it. That's a fact. Like, that's it. It's not good. It's not bad. Like, one of my favorite ways to actually do that, especially when, like, I used to have a lot of anger issues. Like,
growing up, and even in my like 20s, I had like a lot of anger. And one of the things that really, really helped me is to just like go there, like let myself physically feel everything that wants to be felt. Like if I feel like, just throwing this pen at the wall, it's okay, I'm gonna do that. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm gonna just do that. I'm gonna let myself go there and then see what happens. And then when that happens, you get to a point where you're like, you know what, this does not fucking help me. It doesn't like really change the way I feel. So then, okay, let me get, like you said, then curiosity, like get that physical action out of the way and then get curious about. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
I love that you're like, I'm going to fucking throw this pen. And then you're like, all right, I did that. Okay. And I think that's such a beautiful thing, especially with rage and anger.
Yeah.
We are not taught typically how to handle big emotions and emote.
Yeah.
When you have a tiny kid, you're like, yeah, have a tantrum, get it out. And as adults, it's like, oh, you can't do that. If you do that, you're out of control, and that's going to be a bad thing. Instead of healthy, expressive ways of emoting so that you don't trap it in your body and it becomes dis-ease later on down the road.
Yeah. Like I interviewed someone for the podcast, and she's a journal coach. And one of the things that she said, and I started trying that after our conversation, is just like, whenever I'm angry, I just take my journal and I just make like really, I just kicked not kicked, like hit my mic. She's like, I just like to make spirals like angry spirals on my journal. And I mean, yeah, everyone has a different way of expressing it. But I think the point is to not negate the importance of expressing your emotions, feeling your emotions, and then expressing your emotions. I think that's super fucking.
That. And like, I love that you have this spiral. One of the things that I do is when I'm like really angry and I'm like, oh God, I'm going to just lose my shit. I will scream in my elbow to protect my voice. Let me tell you, I will scream and I'm like, oh, and then it's just always crying. I'm like just a flood of emotion. And then after you're like, oh wow, I really needed to express that.
Yeah. And it's as simple as that. Like, and if you don't do that, that leads to so many more things. Like, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about fear, like the voice of ego. I know we talked about like how to tune into that, but what do you do when like you know that this is the voice of ego and this is my fear talking? What's next? Like, I cannot ignore it because it's there in my head. Like, what do I do after that?
Oh my God, I love fear because typically for me, fear is the blueprint of, the next thing that I'm meant to walk. And so I view fear as like a really exciting thing, even though my brain and my body is like, we could die. We're literally going to die. Why would you ever do that? Like, why would you launch a program no one's going to buy? And I'm like, oh my God, my fear is talking. You love me so much. So really it's looking at fear as a part of yourself that just loves you so much that it will do anything possible to keep you safe by telling you things that is going to be like, ooh, don't get out of this box. This box is really safe and known. Or for me, I'm going to be like, I'm going to do that thing tomorrow. I'm so excited. I'm going to do it tomorrow. And then the next day I wake up sick or I wake up with literally no energy. And it's like, this was actually a really big trigger for my fear. So for me, the process is, can I look and just observe? Like I call this like the Trinity, where you're the observer and you look at your fear and you look at what's possible or the more loving thoughts. What on this side, what's the shadow saying? What's the fear saying? Oh, actually, you shouldn't apply for that job because you're not 100% qualified. Oh, okay. Why do you think that? Amazing. Cool. And it's like a journaling process if you want, or I can just hear the fear. And then the other thought on the loving side is like, oh, but what if? What if you just applied? What would be the worst thing that could happen? You don't get an interview? Okay, fine. At least you tried. So it's the process of looking at that fear, listening to the voice because it just wants to be seen.
Yeah.
When you look at it and you hear it, it's like, okay, another process of that though is like most people aren't aware of the fear thoughts because they're not aware of the mental chatter.
Right.
So we drop into our body. Oh my God, I'm nervous. I'm feeling contracted. I'm feeling scared. Like why do I feel this way? Oh, my brain is telling me I'm not 100% qualified. Okay,
Yeah.
fine. But you have to be willing to look at it because if you don't look at it, it's going to just keep trailing you or trailing behind you. It's going to keep following you and it's going to get louder and louder and louder because it thinks you are actually going to die.
Yeah. So I like to ask like 3 of my favorite questions whenever I'm in that space. Like, is someone going to die if I do this? Like, literally, am I going to kill someone? Am I going to lose like millions of dollars? Or am I not going to have food to eat tomorrow? And I know it sounds really funny, but I think what's really important is to kind of just bring the risks into perspective. Because it's just like your ego is just going to inflate the worst case scenarios to such an extent where you're like, oh, this is going to happen. And I'm going to go and, I don't know, talk in front of 20 people and they're going to make fun of me. But, in the larger scheme of things, it's just fucking 20 people. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, there's 8 billion people on the planet. 20 people is nothing, right? But, yeah, I think that's also very important to just kind of gauge the effects that your ego is telling is going to happen.
Oh my God. So true. Like the last time I faced a really, really, really big fear was deciding to leave my corporate job with like my really great salary and my benefits to go full time in my job.
I get
and
you.
I panicked. I was like, I can't do it. I'm not going to do this. Even though I had a safety net, I was good. But my body was like, what happens if you do this and you're never going to be hired again and you really need money? So I was coached through this process that was like, what's the worst that's going to happen? And just like, get it out of your mouth, get it out of your brain. Who cares? Let it be what it needs to be. And what I had realized at a really deep level was that I would be so unsuccessful that I would be homeless and that I'm going to be under a bridge and I'm not going to be able to eat and all this stuff. And that was what my brain was telling me. If you do this, this is what's going to happen. So when I heard that and I was like, oh my God, okay. When you see it and it's like, thank you so much. And actually, what's the truth of the matter? Oh, I'm really well networked. I'm highly skilled. Actually, being an entrepreneur makes me more employable if I decide it because of all of the skills I've sharpened. Can I trust and believe in myself in doing this? But my body was like, no, you're going to be homeless.
Oh, yeah. I had my first panic attack right after I quit my corporate job. And I want to also kind of, now that we've talked a little bit about how the body plays a role. Like I remember like when I got certified as a life coach, right? 2019, we were so focused at that point on, just your mindset, like your thoughts, like how changing your thoughts, like even to an extent the model. Like I know you kind of spoke a little modified version of the model, like asking your body, but the model in its most rudimentary format is like, ooh, what is the thought? Then what's the feeling? So it's very driven by what you're thinking while ignoring what our bodies are feeling. And I think for the longest time, we have kind of, just, and that kind of translates at so many levels, right? Like even like a marketing campaign, like just do it. So fucking toxic. Right? And so, yeah, I want to just kind of dive a little bit into that, because I don't think like anyone listening to this, when you're talking about intuition and ego, would have thought that we're going to go into body. But let's talk a little bit about how that fear gets stored into your body, or how intuition feels in your body.
Oh my God, thank you for asking this. So, a really key thing that I want everyone to understand when we talk about the body, the reason why I focus so much on the heart, and they're doing more studies and finding out more about the powerhouse that is the heart, but the heart has 40,000 of its own neurons.
Yeah.
So it's literally radiating out from your body like 3 feet in the quantum field. Your brain is only picking up about a foot of information. So when we say, listen to your heart, follow your heart, what does your heart say? It's because it's literally picking up more information in the field than your brain. Okay? And so when we say follow your intuition sounds like a whisper. It feels more loving. It's like, but what if? What's possible, like, oh, and to me, intuition is speaks very simply, very clear cut. So my ego is going to tell me narratives, and it's going to be like, you can't do this because of blah, 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 blah. And then my heart is like, what if you just take one step? Just like one step. And so again, your ego is going to tell you all of these things, but it only knows what it knows based on experience or conditioning.
Yeah.
And that's how it's built its safety. And so it's going to do everything to keep you small and contracted and in anxiety and fear and worry, where your heart is, okay. So it's like even opening up your chest, but it's a process of building the muscle of learning to trust your intuition and listening to your body in a world that teaches you bypass it. What does your brain tell you? Logic is the most important thing.
Oh my God. And I cannot deal with that. Like, logic can't be the most important thing. I mean, look at what has happened to the world like in the last 2-3 years. How is that logical, right? Like, how is any of what's happening? Anyway, let's not go down that weird rabbit hole. And I think what you said is like, I found out when I was getting my breathwork certification, like that's when I kind of studied the cardiovascular system, and then the whole connection between the mind, the brain, and your heart. And I was just like mind fucking blown, and like that there's more pathways and signals going from your heart to your brain than to your brain to your heart. Right? So it means if I just learn how to breathe a little differently, I can actually change what I think here. And I am just like so fucking amazed at that. And I think even like now that I've been tuning into my body, like over the last few years, I'm getting familiar with what these different feelings manifest as. And I think all of us have different storage areas, if I may. Right? Like for me, my biggest stress area is like this, like shoulders and neck, and I just just gets knotted up and clamped up. And then when I'm excited about something, like when something is a hell yes, I have like this flutter in my stomach, right? And I think that is so important to kind of, and it's unique to each of us. There's no blueprint. I can't tell you, oh, you were born on this day in this state in this country. This is what you're gonna feel like, right? That's not what it. Again, going back to what we started with, it comes to bringing awareness to your body and tuning in with your body, getting to know your body. Even for me, the simple act of having a meal felt like getting to know my body. Right? Because it was always so rushed. Like with my corporate job, I was 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. I was out of the house. So my breakfast was rushed, my lunch was rushed, my dinners were like half dead. Right? And I think that also plays such a massive role in, being able to discern your love from your fear.
Oh my God. I also love that you led yourself to breath work, because if there's one thing that every single time I sit with a client in a session, every time before I teach a module in my program, we ground and we breathe and we do that because we need to relax into your nervous system, because when you are grounded, you are more open and receptive. Absolutely. You're able to process information differently, and anyone can take 2 minutes and breathe more deeply into their belly. Like, close your eyes and give yourself a moment. And one of the things that I teach people is like, have a breath alarm. And if you actually can't consciously take 2 times out of your day to just close your eyes and breathe, we need to reassess what's happening in your life. You're probably living in hustle and burnout and overworking and all of that stuff. And that is so ungodly toxic for your nervous system and your health.
Oh yeah. And I see that especially for women, right? Like, because I think because you're supposed to have it all, right? Like, I'm going to be a wife and I'm going to like have a clean home and I'm going to have a kid and I'm going to make sure my kid does well at school and I'm going to ace my career and I'm going to keep growing there and I'm going to make as much money as my spouse and I'm going to buy a house and I'm going to buy a car and oh my fucking God, like, you don't have to do it all. And I think, again, like, I think we're going in a very different direction, but I think that's why the traditional systems, I think, have a sort of an appeal where, you know, yes, there were gendered roles and I don't prescribe to that notion, but at least the work was divided, right? Like, everyone wasn't at the edge of burnout. Like, now everyone's burning out everywhere because everyone's trying every single fucking thing.
And we do it because we care about what other people think of us. Oh, okay. Where if you actually didn't give a flying fuck, you would be like, I'm going to live in this way. I don't care if my house is messy. My children are happy. I'm going to take care of my health today because that's what matters. I'm going to have a wildly fulfilling relationship. If that means I make a little bit less money or I make more money, I don't give a fuck about that because I'm joyful, happy, and living in alignment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Like,
but that takes courage.
Yeah, it takes a lot of courage. Like, I was gonna say it takes balls, but then yeah.
Takes ovaries. What's up?
Vaginas, exactly. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I read this somewhere, and they were like, why do we say, like, when something takes courage, why do we say that it takes balls? It should say it takes vaginas, because, well, like, balls are fucking sensitive. Like, vaginas are strong as fuck. Like, they fucking birth the human.
I love that.
So yeah, it takes fucking vaginas. But yeah. Cool. Is there anything is there like a message that you want to leave anyone who's listening to this with?
Thank you for asking. I think if there is one thing that you could do, it's literally to tune into your heart. If you could make space every single day to just drop in. And what does that look like? Maybe you're breathing and you literally visualize going into your heart space and just like feeling into it. Ask yourself, like, what am I meant to learn today? Or what's a message you have for me today? Or if you have a decision that's weighing on your heart, ask yourself, what's the more loving option? And just be curious, because your heart is going to tell you something, or it's going to flash an image to you, or you're going to feel something in your body, because we all have different, intuitive gifts. Yeah. If you could just allow yourself a space to do that, if it's 5 minutes, if it's more, begin cultivating the connection, because what you're actually teaching your brain is, I'm going to build a new neural pathway where I'm going to trust myself. I'm going to trust this organ that's beating in my body, and I have it for a reason, and it's literally tethered to my soul, and my soul knows exactly where I'm meant to go and what I'm meant to do. So if I can do this and trust this and follow this, even if my ego is chirping, it's fine. Yeah. It's fine. And I think that if everyone lived from their heart, we would live in a massively different, more beautiful, loving place. And that is my dream. So thank you for the work that you do in helping people break cycles and to change their lives and to listen to themselves and to resource them because of the ripple effect that you have in the world, Shalvika. Like, oh my God. It's so exciting. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing that beautiful message, for being here, for sharing your gift, and, just being you. I think, oh my God, I had so much fun doing this. Okay, before I forget, I ask this question to all my guests. So, what is your one favorite book, movie, podcast, music piece, anything? It can be any piece of entertainment or art. Doesn't necessarily have to be related to what we talked about, but one thing that you feel people should experience.
Okay, I immediately heard, because I'm primarily clairaudient, I heard What Dreams May Come. That movie features Robin Williams, and if you haven't seen it, I watch it every year. And the first time I saw it, I literally ugly cried to the point I was like heaving. And the reason being, it's not only love, but I honestly believe that's what heaven looks like when you see it. And to know that you are so unconditionally loved, and it's just a movie, but I feel like that art was channeled.
Cool, I'm gonna check it out. This is my favorite part, honestly, so that I can go back and like find the books and movies that people recommend. It's so exciting. Thank you so much for sharing this. And if for whoever's listening, do you want to connect with you? Do you want to just, of course, I will add it to the show notes as well, but do you want to just tell them how they can connect with you, what work you do, how they can work with you?
Thank you. Okay, my favorite way to connect with people is on Instagram. I love sending messages. So my handle is ashley.mondor, which is Mondor. If you are like, I don't really want to connect with her there yet, you want to catch a vibe, I have my own podcast, and it's called the Free Your Heart Podcast with Ashley Mondor. And I have guests like Shalvika on who share their majesty, their gifts, and their magic in the world. And it's so fun. Every person brings like a tool or a resource or a story. So if you want to catch a vibe there, and then typically people who work with me hang out with me in the online space and we build a relationship before they book in. And it's because I work with people with a lot of heavy, dense, shadowy, dark goodness. And I also want to leave this. If you're going through something really dense right now, just really love yourself through it. I had this come through a meditation where not all flowers bloom in daylight, and there are gifts in the darkness. You just have to be willing to see it and love yourself through it. So thank you for the opportunity to connect with people who love you, Shalvika. This is like such a gift. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I loved that. Oh my God. Thank you. This has been an amazing conversation, and I'm going to talk to you soon.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in today's episode. If you absolutely loved what you heard today, be sure to share it with me by leaving a review on iTunes so that I can keep the good stuff coming. And if you aren't already following me on social media, come soak up some extra inspiration and send me a hello on Instagram by searching @Shalvika P. Also tagged in the show notes. I love and adore you so much, and I will talk to you super soon. In the meantime, continue building your most authentic and aligned as fuck life. Ciao!